Very, very gracious to be invited back, Your Excellency. I've got to say, I came here as a young banker. The last time I was here was between 1994 and the year 2000. So to come back and see the nation just gleaming is pretty impressive, and a testament to the drive of Bahrain. Another 17 billion bucks in deals to be done. Well done, congratulations. Now there's a wonderful phrase in Irish, okay? It's a state of chassis, not crisis, but chassis. And that's how 2025 kind of feels in terms of geopolitics, tariffs, trade angst, foreign policy. And the one thing in a state of chassis that we do very well in Ireland is we come together. I want to ask you, Your Excellency, first of all, regional cooperation, I think, was personified in the foreign policy levers this year. Is it time for more cooperation and coordinated financial strategy between the GCC nations?
Absolutely. And my answer to that will always be yes, no matter what we do, because there's always more cooperation within the GCC that we have to strive for and that we have to work on. And today, if we look at the GCC economy in its entirety, approximately $2.3 trillion of GDP, growing at a very fast pace, really with the big drivers of the continued diversification of the Saudi economy being a very strong driver and the biggest driver of the incremental economic growth within the GCC, and the continued strength of the economy in the United Arab Emirates and its focus on innovative sectors that are growing at a faster pace than the rest of the world. And when we put the two together, we get a macro picture where today's GDP for the GCC region stands at $2.3 trillion, very much expected to go to $3 trillion by 2030, and comfortably going north of $6 trillion of GDP. 6 to 8 trillion are the revised estimates now, and we hope that number continues to go up in terms of estimates. So it shows you the level of growth that we have, and the level of growth that we have to ensure we are coordinating to capture in the region.
And I think in times of angst, I've returned from the United States here to the region because I think of the opportunities that are here. So it's a very deliberate choice to return. Lord Mayor, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's get a very British perspective for you. This is a nation that I've lived in for 30 years. They are in hot pursuit of free trade agreements around the world.
Right.
Talk to me about the opportunity of the GCC free trade agreement. How advanced is it? What will it mean? What are you going to bring home to the City of London, sir? Good morning.
Good morning. Lovely to be here with you, Manus. The government, His Majesty's government, is responsible for the free trade agreement. The signs are looking extremely good, which is excellent. That there'll be something very soon. So we are hoping for that, but a great opportunity nonetheless. Even in addition to that, though, there are a number of bilateral arrangements going between GCC countries and the United Kingdom. Some of them are enormously important. I had the great honour to be with His Excellency in London just over the summer when we were celebrating the second strategic investment partnership. Absolutely. And it was a real joy to see that there. That's the sort of thing that we are doing currently. So we're not waiting for the free trade agreement to be signed. We're doing these bilateral agreements and we're rejoicing in those as well. The opportunities are immense, and I just think that it's something that the United Kingdom does really, really well. We are an open, free trading sort of a business centre in London, and the country wants to do business with remarkable dynamic places such as Bahrain.
And Dr. Zeyoudi, good morning to you. Good to see you. This man chases more CEPA agreements than most of us, can do in our lifetime. Good morning, sir. United we stand is a phrase. United the GCC stands, the stronger it is to take the opportunity. Cooperation and the UAE's role in that cooperation economically in this region. How do you see that, and how do you see the opportunity?
Well, let me start by thanking our host, His Excellency Sheikh Salman, for the invitation, and the leaders of Bahrain. Wish them all the best in the conference. The beauty about the GCC, I'm going to complement what His Excellency was talking about when it comes to numbers. Let's look at the different models of the economic blocks around the world. The issue with those economic blocks that they're very focusing on the details of the real implementation, and that's why they're diluted the real progress and the growth that's supposed to be. That's exactly the opposite within the GCC cooperation, where we're aligning ourselves in the general and the strategic direction, and we keep the GCC member states to do the details as per their internal ecosystem as well as policies. And that's why the momentum is there. Now, if you look at the last few months, even last 1.5 years, the center of growth globally is coming from this region. When it comes to economic growth, the tourism attractions, the attraction of high net worth individuals, as well as the growth of trade, and the FDI growth that we're doing globally. So are we seeing that as paying off? Absolutely. And this is the agility and flexibility which we're having. And the most important thing when it comes to GCC, the clarity, predictability, and the neutralities, which is keeping the momentum. And we're going to be always pushing for that because it is the nature of the GCC cooperation.
Do you think the world, I mean, I started this conversation on stage about a world not in crisis, that would just be too much of a journalistic headline, but in chassis. Do you think that in a period of flux and perhaps geopolitical instability, people look at the GCC with a slightly different prism?
Well, the beauty of the GCC is long-term policies, clarities, stabilities, and we know who we're talking with. For looking at the other governments, there's no predictability. You cannot even ensure that the policies will continue for the administrations, different administrations around the world's terms. And at the same time, if the other ones is going to be redefining and renegotiating some of the terms that has been set. When it comes to the investments that is going abroad, it's not only the predictabilities issue and the uncertainties. It's about the contracts, how we're going to ensure that contract is going to be reducing the risk of changes and reducing the risk of the investments. That is not the case in the GCC, where there's a long-term clarities, and investors, they know what's the risk, they know how they're going to expand their businesses, and at the same time, we're offering them the market access through the different agreements which we're doing.
And it's interesting, Sheikh Salman, I was walking around the foyer yesterday. I talk for a living, as you know. And so I walk up to people who I don't know and I go, hello, who are you? What do you do? And he said, I'm a manufacturer. I won't name which country because that would be disclosing who he is. But I think this is the very personification. I said, why are you here? What's the appeal of Bahrain relative to, where's Excellency Faisal, what's the appeal of Bahrain relative to Saudi? But he complimented the size of the economy that he could access, which is Saudi Arabia. But here's to the point. You use the phrase gateway, and I think this personifies it. A manufacturer who wants to re-domicile or expand his business in this country. It's not just manufacturing. What do you think the biggest opportunities are? Because it is about being accessible to the greater GCC from here. So when people come to see you, I would imagine it's an open door to everybody, but where do you see the biggest opportunity in terms of these $17 billion of new deals that you're just about to announce, sir?
So as we looked across the region and saw where are the main opportunities for growth, considering that Bahrain as a economy within a wider and larger economy, what would be the priority sectors that we would focus on? We focused on the sectors that would deliver multiplier returns within our GDP as the larger economies, especially the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, continue on a very strong growth path, really driven by the points that His Excellency outlined very articulately, which is that today we see global investors pouring into this region. And pouring into this region because there is a very clear visibility and on a long-term basis. There are long-term visions, there is a stability of policy, and there are the three important factors that would determine coming in once you've ticked those two boxes and you have a 10, 20-year horizon, you're able to deploy significant capital. The infrastructure is world-class. The regulations are modern, forward-looking, and evolving at a faster pace even than the rest of the world. And the quality of human capital is at the top of the world. And you put those three together, you really start to see a very strong investment case forming as people look around the world, and a world that is fraught with instability. Where does Bahrain position itself? We have focused on 6 strategic sectors. The reason we picked those sectors are they are sectors that are multipliers versus the growth from the other economies around us that we are part of. First is financial services, which today represents the largest sector in our economy. As economies grow, and as large economies grow, their financing needs, their needs for financial services, their needs for everything from banking to family offices to financial technologies as it rolls out, becomes a multiplier sector. Logistics is the second one. Same, it becomes a multiplier sector. Tourism, as increased economic activity happens in the region, tourism flows increase. You mentioned manufacturing, and manufacturing is an important one because as economies grow, they need resilience in their supply chains, they need manufacturing closer to them, and they need those manufacturing centers tied to the logistics centers. So that becomes an important one. The telecommunications and technology space, especially because we're in such a period of transformational change with these transformational and groundbreaking technologies coming, the nexus of quantum computing really coming coming online at the same time as we are making significant advances globally on AI is really driving that, and we're positioning Bahrain very well around that. And in Bahrain's case, oil and gas. We keep oil and gas on our on our priority sector list. It is an important one. The oil was discovered here in Bahrain in 1932. We have significant opportunities in the oil and gas space that we continue to look at, and also in terms of building capability and expertise in the oil and gas space to serve the larger economies around us. So every single one of those, oil and gas included, is a multiplier sector when you're in a wider economic area that is looking at a very positive economic trajectory.
And I think one phrase which has become very evident in the past 5 days, I've been working in another country in the past 5 days, it's about the region. There's been a pivot from a capital giver to a region where institutions, organizations want to deploy capital at more scale perhaps than we've ever seen before. But let's bring it back to the City of London. No stranger to turbulent times, redefining yourself, pre-Brexit, post-Brexit, and it is about reinvention. But where does the City of London define itself in terms of attracting new capital, new talent? I had Lord Jim O'Neill in the seat with me last week, and he said, don't worry, Manus, the Americans are going to redeploy to the United Kingdom, and that's going to be the saving grace. Where do you see the City of London in terms of attracting capital and opportunity? Maybe Lord Jim O'Neill was over-egging the pudding.
Manus, the City of London is in a very good place at the moment. You mentioned Brexit.
Yes.
Now, at the time of Brexit, we had within the financial district in London, in the Square Mile, we had 525,000 people working in the City of London. The last time we counted, which was just a few months ago, we're up to 678,000 people working in financial professional services. If you then add in Canary Wharf and then the hedge fund area of Mayfair, you get up to 880,000 people working in financial and professional services. That compares with the total population of Frankfurt, 723,000.
Long live the City of London.
Exactly right. We have more people working in financial and professional services in London than there are people in Frankfurt. Just gives you an idea of the scale that we have. But I think where you're coming to, the innovation that we have, although people talk about AI and having that as a priority, it's absolutely one of our priorities. But we talk about the implementation of AI. Our big companies in financial, professional, legal, maritime services, they've been implementing AI for the last decade. We have whole departments looking at, effectively, these companies, although they don't style themselves AI companies, we're all turning ourselves into AI companies in the City of London. It is a remarkable transformation. And I just think we're at the forefront of those developments.
Dr. Zeyoudi. I mean, I returned to the UAE, and it's as if something's happened in the past 2 years. It's as if every conversation I have is about AI, G42, and in Saudi Arabia it was about humane. So take us to the future of AI, because it seems as if the United Arab Emirates, as well as other nations here, not excluding Bahrain, Your Excellency, it is about the data centers, the AI, the opportunity. How important is that when you're on the road? Because you are constantly on the global road seeking new relationships. How do people talk to you about that AI, the opportunity of the UAE in terms of positioning themselves there?
It's one of the main discussion in all sectors. If we look at what's happening now globally, especially in the US with the tariffs that has been applied, companies manage to maneuver around the immediate consequences or negative impact of those tariffs because of the usage of technologies and AI. And with the other GCC, we foresee already this years before. And we started the concrete infrastructure developments when it comes to the AI. The good thing about the UAE, and I'm going to speak in more details, we have two models. The model of investments, which is heavily applied in Abu Dhabi, where we invest in infrastructure, data centers internally and externally, ensure that we invest in companies, we bring the technology back to the country for deployments, and we ensure that our people are using it. The other model, which is heavily dominated in Dubai, is the consumer model, where technology providers and innovators, technology companies would like to deploy or use their technology. They come to Dubai and apply it in a larger scale. But is it a separated, independent sector? Absolutely no. We'll start applying the AI in every sector, and we start heavily with our back-and-bone sector, which is oil and gas. It's one of the sectors that's taking heavily the AI seriously within the operation, and the transformation that we have done, the efficiency, reduction of cost of production has been amazing in the last few years, and the results, we're seeing it on a daily basis. Now, are we shifting that to the other sectors? Absolutely. Supply chain, logistics, His Excellency was talking about. Logistics is heavily dependent on people from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
And without technology, without AI, we cannot maneuver on improving the efficiency of logistics if AI cannot be applied in larger scale, which many of the logistical companies are applying, and we're taking that seriously through Abu Dhabi ports and DB Worlds. Same thing on other sectors has been done.
We've got Mumtalakat sitting in the audience, and we will have a conversation with them a little bit later on. The guardian, the steward of capital, no pressure. But I do want to talk.
You have the chairman of Mumtalakat sitting on the stage.
I know, so he feels the pressure. He's looking at you, and you're looking at him, and I can see that's a strong relationship. Well, let's talk to you about not the pressure on the head, but sovereign wealth funds. Look, for time immemorial, sovereign wealth funds have been an integral part of the GCC. We even see President Trump, he'd love to have an American sovereign wealth fund. But I want to talk to you about your sovereign wealth fund and how important it is in terms of economic drivers for growth domestically and in terms of how they deploy capital. Because I look at the biggest private deal that we've just seen, sir, which is Silver Lake EA, $55 billion take private. That is the personification of sovereign wealth funds alongside private capital. So talk me through, when you chair a meeting, when you chair that sovereign wealth fund, how you discuss the deployment of capital for economic growth within Bahrain.
Again, as we have a very clear idea of what are the sectors that we are looking to target, what we have found is that Mumtalakat had, at its establishment and at its genesis in 2006, had the strategy of diversifying the sovereign holdings into being 1/3 local, 1/3 regional, 1/3 international, following a model that has been really successful for Singapore as an example.
Yes.
What we found after the global financial crisis in 2008 and after really the economic opportunities that were brought about over the last decade and a half, we found that positioning Mumtalakat as a joint venture partner of choice for people coming in to invest in Bahrain was the highest IRR business we could be in. And the opportunities that presented themselves just by being in the right place at the right time with an investor looking to invest inward into Bahrain and wanting to partner up with Mumtalakat was just very good business. And that's why it was prioritized. And then because of the fact that we can and have a very good understanding at the board of Mumtalakat and a few of the board members of Mumtalakat, fellow ministers and private sector board members, I think everybody's pretty much here in the room, knows we're in a very good information flow as well in terms of where the strategy of the country is going, so we can have the right discussions with investors that we need to. Second thing that we found a sovereign wealth fund is very useful at doing is entrepreneurial development.
You've got free reign. You have free reign. You can be entrepreneurial. That's the wonderful thing about it.
And what we did was in the Kingdom of Bahrain, with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's vision, it set up the Labour Fund Tamkeen many years ago. Tamkeen was set up when labour fees were introduced, and it collects the labour fees on people working in Bahrain, puts them into a fund that is then used to train, upskill, and provide early career wage support for Bahrainis. And so we teamed up with Tamkeen. We said, listen, you guys know the entrepreneurial space. We teamed up with the Bahrain Development Bank in the room as well. Said, okay, you guys know the entrepreneurial space. Let's start a monthly competition. And we do a pitching competition on a monthly basis, provide them with a grant from Tamkeen, but at the end of the year, bring everybody you gave a grant to.
Yeah.
Let's do a final pitching competition. We'll give them equity from Mumtalakat. And we started building Mumtalakat's portfolio so that we have the early stage investments. They tend to be quite small. And then we will grow them into companies that we need to have a strategy of how to expand their capital, professionalize them, etc. Then we have a group of companies that we will be looking at doing what we call a merger, acquisition, divestment, or IPO.
Yeah.
So you're doing so. And then we have a group of companies that we're taking global. And that's the way we staged our portfolio. And once we did that, we started to have a very clear idea of where we want capital to go. And as investors are having discussions with the EDB, the ethos that we have in the Kingdom of Bahrain, I mentioned it earlier in the opening speech, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has been very clear, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister has been very clear about us having a Team Bahrain ethos. When an investor is coming to speak to Team Bahrain, they shouldn't know where the Ministry of Finance starts and ends, and where the Ministry of Commerce starts and ends, and where the Ministry of Tourism starts and ends, where the Ministry of Housing starts. They just see one team, seamless in its execution, seamless in its discussion, and that also includes Mumtalakat, but it also includes the private sector.
Indeed.
And one of the things that is extremely important and that we have really made sure that we are doing is that we're partnering up with the private sector for capital deployment and making the private sector a part of that. Because one of the things you don't want to do is as you start investing in opportunities locally, you do not want to crowd out the private sector. The private sector is the main engine of growth. It's the main engine of employment in the economy. And together with the private sector, we can identify opportunities and deploy capital to the highest IRR possible.
And it certainly is an easy place to access in terms of information. From my side, when I want to do something, I know where to go. I want to bring in the Lord Mayor again. Now, he doesn't have a sovereign wealth fund.
No.
Okay, we can establish.
Sadly. He has the City of London.
He's got the plumbing. He's got the plumbing. So America has the depth of equity and debt capital markets. The United Kingdom, London has the real sort of the human capital, let's say, and the plumbing. But I want to talk to you about the Mansion House Accord. Tell this audience what that is, because I know it is the private sector coming together with the ambition of the city, and it is about private capital deployed astutely, globally, which then delivers reciprocity. Tell the audience what you do with the Mansion House Accord.
Delighted to do that, Manus. I think you mentioned New York a moment ago. I mean, okay, some of the flows are perhaps larger than in London, but the New York flows are often domestic flows. The great thing about London flows are they are almost all international flows. We are an extraordinary global city. Also, in relation to fund management in the United Kingdom, in London, we're up at about sort of $14.5 trillion of funds under management. So a really remarkable centre in that respect. Something I've been spearheading as Lord Mayor, though, it's something that of which I'm very proud, and that is we wanted to make sure that the pension funds in the United Kingdom, we have the second largest pension system in the world at about $5.1 trillion in the pension system. We invest an awful lot of that into global trackers and fixed income. well, in order to get some better pension outcomes. I've been very keen to try and get pension funds to do more in alternative, high growth potential assets. And what we did, I managed to get 17 of the largest pension funds in the country into a room, locked the door, and said we cannot, we can either go down the route of reforming on the legislative side, and that's going to take 2 or 3 years, or we lock the door and we get you to sign up to something now, and we managed to get them to do that, and the Mansion House Accord is a $130 billion program in order to invest around the world into alternative assets.
I have this vision of 17 CEOs locked in the Mansion House,
Good.
signing up.
It's a beautiful building.
It's a beautiful building. I'm going back to do the Irish Business Conference there next year. We're going to close with the UAE, Your Excellency. It's not deliberate, it's because time has gone against me. Dr. Zeyoudi, just very briefly, just frame, the UAE has significant sovereign wealth, capacity to deploy at will and does. How important is that in the FDI initiative for you? How big a calling card is that?
It's the main driver of our international engagement partnerships, because wherever we go, many of the countries or partners that we're dealing with, they want to have some of our experience that we have done in the UAE, and our sovereign wealth funds is taking the lead and taking our international experience, our national experience to the international sphere. I want to link to the previous question you asked to His Excellency Sheikh Salman. How is the board of our sovereign wealth funds? We start applying the AI, and we prompted AI and developed dedicated platforms to assist us in taking the right decisions and ensuring that the documents is as well up to the level and the ambitions of our leaders when it comes to those projects, engagements, partnerships, and etc. Are we seeing results? Absolutely, because of the fragmentations and this unpredictability that's going around the world. The AI and throughout those meetings, it's assisting us to go to certain direction where we're seeing a huge growth and huge revenues or IRR that's going to come from the investments. Are we linking the international engagements with the sovereign wealth funds? Absolutely, we're ensuring that there is a BIT, but at the same time, through our trade deals, we're ensuring that we're having the highest liberalization in the investment sectors through the service engagements with those countries. And the sovereign wealth funds are one of the main influencers on the sectors that we're interested in those engagements. So far, we concluded 32 agreements in less than 4 years, and we're negotiating tough ones now with the EU, with Mercosur, with Nigeria, but we're very close to conclude those deals as well.
Will you do your free trade agreement by the end of this year with the European Union?
Hopefully, we're very close.
Hopeful is a brilliant word. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a spirited first discussion, continuity in a time of chassis.